Hey guys, hope you had a great weekend. I am just making a quick screencastify on this little homework assignment that we had due, okay, on whether or not it is a hypothesis or a prediction. And if it was a prediction, you were supposed to go ahead and write it as a hypothesis. On Friday, we did a short lecture on hypotheses and in predictions and claims. If you need to review that, go ahead and do that sometime before next week. But let's go ahead and go through this. Do remember that a hypothesis is a very general statement that will lead to multiple predictions. Okay, and the big difference between a hypothesis and a prediction is, again, the hypothesis leads to multiple predictions, whereas a prediction is saying if you do this, then that will happen, although it will not always be in that format. So let's look at the first one. The first one says the plant with the fertilizer will grow taller than the one without. Well, if you just listen to what I just said, you should recognize that this is going to be a prediction and not a hypothesis. Okay, so how do we turn this into a hypothesis? Remember that something that's going to lead to multiple predictions. Well, an easy one would be plants require nutrients to grow. And then we could do all sorts of different types of predictions. Plants with fertilizer, i.e., nutrients, will grow faster than other ones. Plants without the fertilizer will not grow as well as ones that do have it. Different types of nutrients, whether I put different levels of phosphorus, nitrogen, and potassium, I could vary all of those various nutrients and come up with different growth rates, and those would all be different experimental trials. Okay, so number two, sunlight is required for plant growth. Well, this is a hypothesis, okay, because this can now lead to multiple predictions, and this one was actually in the little Google Slides presentation that I did the other day. Okay, we could say sunlight is required for plant growth, and we can have lots of different predictions there. We could say plants closer to a light source will grow faster. Plants that do not have access to light will not grow as much as ones that do have access to light. Plants that grow in the tropics, which have the same amount of sunlight pretty much every single day of the year, will grow more than ones that live in the Arctic, which only have a limited amount of exposure to light, albeit it is for very long periods of time during the summer, okay, and vice versa during the winter. So that is a hypothesis. Question number three, talking about enzymes. Heating the enzyme will cause the reaction to slow down. So we have an if-then statement hidden there. If we heat the enzyme, then the reaction will slow down. Okay, so this, you should be able to recognize that this is a prediction and not a hypothesis. So we can turn this into a hypothesis by basically just saying enzymes work best at specific temperatures. So now we could try the enzyme at cold temperature, we could try it at warm temperature, we can try it at a hot temperature, and we can do all sorts of different types of predictions based on that. Okay, number four. Goes to marsh grass growth is limited by available nitrogen. Okay, so this one's a little bit harder to eke out. You might be able to argue this one both ways. I do believe that this one is a hypothesis because we're not really saying specifically that nitrogen is, well, we are saying that nitrogen is necessary, basically. I guess we could do this as a prediction, thinking about it. And the way we would turn this into a hypothesis would be marsh grass requires nitrogen. And now we can make all sorts of different predictions of what actually that nitrogen does do. So these can be a little tricky. All right, we get to number five. If food is present in the aquarium, then snails will move with greater speed. This one should kind of jump out to you as being a prediction and not a hypothesis. Okay, so how might we change this to a hypothesis? Maybe we could say something like snails require food to fuel activity. Okay. We get to number 6. We aim to test the hypothesis of whether muscle tone will increase in young women if they exercise at least 30 minutes per day, 7 days a week. Okay, so this one they have the hypothesis in there, but it's actually kind of a distractor. And this is a prediction, okay, because we're saying exercise will increase muscle tone if they do this 30 minutes per day, 7 days a week. I think a way to turn this into a hypothesis would be just to say that muscle tone is influenced by activity. Okay, muscle tone is influenced by activity. All right, then we get into our last statement. Our hypothesis is that there will be more fruit flies in the chamber with sugar-coated cotton ball than in the chamber with the water-coated cotton ball. Okay, this one is also a prediction. Okay, because we're saying if there's sugar here, then there'll be more fruit flies. So a way to turn this into a general hypothesis would be to say something like fruit flies are attracted to sweet food sources. Okay, and now we can do all sorts of different types of predictions there. Fruit flies, if I have a sweet food source in one side versus the other, then fruit flies should be found in the sweet source. If I have a higher concentration of a sweet source in one and a lower concentration of a sweet source in another chamber, then the fruit flies we'll see fruit flies in both, but we should see more in the higher concentration sucrose solution, so on and so on and so on. So that's the hypothesis prediction homework. I hope that helped, and we'll see you next week.